SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
This is Gerard Gibert, and thank you for listening to MidDays here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. Hello. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Midday SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Rhino in the Element Wealth Studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music on this
Friday Eve.
Who turned on the air conditioner out there?
Oh, I ain't complaining.
Man, oh man, I don't know that I've ever seen this in August, right, as we approach Labor Day. It's usually boiling hot this time of year, and of course, we are approaching the anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, devastating the Gulf Coast, especially in the state of Mississippi. Coming up tomorrow, right? 20 years. Hard to believe, man. It's one of those things where I can remember it like it was yesterday sort of deal. But at this point, I don't want to jinx it, but I don't see a whole lot of convective activity out in the Atlantic that might be headed this way. I had a big one, right, a couple of weeks ago that fortunately did not pass land. It did a little damage from just some high winds and floods. That's how powerful that thing was, even though it was out in the Atlantic, kind of grazed the coastline, as in a few hundred miles out to the east. But so far, and I'm going to knock on all the wood I can find, we've been spared because we still got a couple of months left, right?
Technically, but usually if you're going to have it, it's in August and September. It's the October, November hurricanes that are more and more rare and usually weaker.
Yeah, waters are a little cooler and more wind shear and less possibility of the convective activity that we don't want to see. So we are learning more about this shooter in Minneapolis. You know, I've said before on this program that, and maybe it's hyperbole, and I perhaps could receive some criticism for it, but that whenever we see a situation that fits the left's narrative from a social justice perspective, they celebrate. It seems like it when there's an incident involving the jackpot, the lottery for the left, is a white police officer and a black perpetrator. Would you agree? I mean, when that happens, they just blast it. It goes viral. And they spend more time talking about the inherent racism involved in the incident than they do the actual facts surrounding said incident. Well, of course, the media, you know this already.
You don't hate them enough.
That's right. They're already, before the facts were known, they were already jumping on this situation in Minneapolis. ABC, the investigators hadn't determined anything at this point. And, of course, ABC on Wednesday, a reporter made a misleading claim pointing to the motivations of what we now know to be a transgender shooting. suspect. Oh, man. So it just was a deal where they were already defaulting to the notion that this was a pro-Trump MAGA extremist and all that kind of stuff without knowing squat, honestly.
Well, no, if what you're talking about is what I'm thinking of, they said that he had President Trump's name on his gun.
Yes.
That is a lie by omission. Because, yes, it said Trump on there. It said kill Trump.
That's exactly right.
But to state it as the gun had the president's name on it is obviously an attempt to spin it like this was some Trump fanatic. When in fact, no, it's a darling of the left,
that's
a crazy
exactly
tranny
right.
person.
That's absolutely, yeah. And so this reporter over at ABC said there are also racial slurs, nihilistic statements, all painting the picture of a disturbed individual who carried out this mass shooting on the first week of school at the Annunciation Church of Minneapolis. Well, that's actually correct. But he did say later on, kind of did a little mea culpa when they discovered that the words were "Kill Donald Trump" inscribed on the gun. So I would argue...
It was on the magazine. It wasn't even technically on the weapon itself.
Oh, okay. All right, gotcha. But, and now we're learning this person, as you indicated, was disturbed, that I believe this person's mother, who by all accounts seems to be a nice person, had agreed to allow her son, right, to undergo gender treatments. And I think maybe worked for the school previously.
Yeah, had retired from that very Ascension school in 2021, I believe.
Yeah. And so this person, as we pointed out so many times, needs the cobwebs chased out of their brain. And I would submit...
That's the nice way to put it.
Yeah, exactly. I would submit that it's the left who has blood on their hands here. It's their rhetoric. They basically justify this kind of crap.
Well, they enable the craziness and then tell the crazy people that your lives are in danger because Orange Man bad.
And in this case, you could take it even. I agree. Take it even further. Oh, these Christian people don't agree with your lifestyle, right? Therefore, you got to kill them. But they're the ones that incite this kind of crap. They're always talking about Donald Trump's insightful rhetoric on January 6th. That's nothing. That wasn't even insightful rhetoric, honestly. That's just a misrepresentation of fact.
Well, if that's insightful rhetoric, then what level does it rise to when the lieutenant governor's parading around in a Protect Trans Kids shirt with a big hunting knife on it?
Totally correct, and I was going to point that out as well. So now we're seeing all sorts of stuff where the leadership on the left, and in particular in Minneapolis and in Minnesota, starting with the governor, who's a wacko. So you've got all that kind of stuff, and it's like these sick people are empowered by this and feel motivated and justified, even compelled to go commit this kind of horrific violence, killing children while they're praying. I can't imagine anything worse, anything more evil than that. Fortunately, we're learning that the 14 or so who were injured are going to recover fully, and that's great news. But seeing the video of these parents crying, I mean, who would have thought that you're subject to being murdered while you're praying in church? That's sick. And that's on the left's hands. The left, of course, thinks that those of us who are faithful to our God and Christianity, we're the problem.
That's why they spent all day yesterday on social media attacking prayer.
Oh, it was ridiculous what the mayor there...
They wonder why I called him evil.
And the mayor there of Minneapolis with his, we need more than thoughts and prayers, he's completely missing the point. Nobody's suggesting that thoughts and prayers will solve this problem. The problem there, Mr. Mayor, is you pander and you accommodate people like this nutcase that committed this heinous crime. It's on you. And those of us who at a time of loss offer our thoughts and prayers, it's just common courtesy, respect, and a request of our God to just comfort us. It's not we're not suggesting that's the solution to this problem. You're the problem. We need to figure out how to get you to shut your damn mouth. You're the one that's inciting this kind of nonsense.
Because the left has made government their God.
And that's a shame. So, again, taking that totally out of context and once again demonizing those of us who have faith in our God and believe in Christian values and principles, which, by the way, do not condone killing people. Good grief. But you incite it. You justify it. You normalize it, you sick people. We're coming right back in the Element Well studio. Stay with us.
From the Seabrook.
This segment of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Let's do this.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Let's go.
All right, well, you're getting like Lance playing all the various fight songs. He likes to do that.
I loaded the fight songs.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Which one is that?
That is, it's not actually a fight song. That's the Michigan State Marching Band performing Brick House.
Brick House, yeah. I recognize the tune there, but I didn't know that. Michigan State plays it. Okay, well, we played that because now it's time for Dixon Williams, SuperTalk Mississippi sports director. Dixon, what's going on, man? We got high school football cranking up.
Some of them played last week. Everybody will be playing this week.
Okay.
Looks like it's going to be kind of wet.
Yeah.
But, hey, that's okay.
Yeah, that's unusual for the kickoff game, right? The first game.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
The other part of the thing with high school football kicking off is the High School Football Scoreboard Show.
Yeah. How long has that been around?
That has been around. This will be the 30th year.
Whoa, that's awesome.
30 years, and it was Paul Gallo's, the late, great Paul Gallo's idea to start this 30 years ago.
Incredible.
To do a statewide call-in scoreboard show on Friday nights.
Yeah.
And it's been going strong ever since. And it's gone through several changes and metamorphoses as the years have gone by. And but it's a great thing, and a lot of people tune in on Friday nights, somewhere around 10 or 5 after thereabouts.
So if you want all the scores, all the highlights, all the action from across the Magnolia State on Friday night when we play high school football, no better place to do that than on the High School Scoreboard Show here on SuperTalk.
Yep. The Mississippi Farm Bureau Insurance Company Scoreboard Show.
Man.
And I hosted it for almost 30 years.
Yeah.
And then turned it over to Will for a couple of years. Then he turned it over to Lance. But the basic main crew is pretty much still intact.
Okay.
We started out with Keith Walker, Butch Hammock, Perez was our producer, and me as the host. And that's the way we started out back, I guess it was around 01 or 02 or somewhere thereabouts. And then I handed it off to Will, and then from there.
Yeah. Still going strong.
Still going strong. We had the first year of the Scoreboard Show back in 95. We were still downstairs of the Farm Bureau building down there, and we called it the Bat Cave because basically those studios down there were actually underground.
Yeah.
And that's why we called it the Bat Cave, and that kind of stuck as we moved up here to this area.
Which is ground floor for the folks that don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, when you come in the building here, you actually come in on the second floor.
That's right.
But, And the thing is, the studios that we were at is actually where the news people are now.
Oh, that's right.
That was our scoreboard studios every Friday night.
Yeah, still configured as a kind of a studio setup.
It's still got the setup and this table and everything like that. But that's where we did the show from for several years until about, I think it was 96, we moved up here.
I got you.
And then, of course, eventually then moved over into the Studio X area, and that's where we've been. But we still kind of refer to it as the Bat Cave.
So can folks still call in?
Sure.
And talk? Still do that, right?
Right, still do that. We depend on a lot of the announcers that do the high school games on Friday nights to call in for information, the scores, and that sort of thing. What we used to do to try to get as many as we could during the show was kind of limit them to about a 3-minute segment. Give me the highlights of the game, the score of the game, and then who you play next. Yeah. And we move on that way. And
I got you.
We actually started a week before the first games when we first got on there, because we did a show the week before the full schedule hit to kind of have a dry run and get into it. And then, of course, when the big schedule hit, then we got as many scores as we possibly could from either people calling in or from other sources, and get it out as much as possible. Yeah. And did it all through the season, including the Friday after Thanksgiving, and then right up into December to the championship games, which when we first started, they were playing championship games out at Mississippi Veterans Memorial Stadium.
So the point is our team is here on Friday nights.
Right.
While the games are going on, getting all the information, and we're streaming some of the games as well, right?
Yeah. I don't know how many. There's 7 or 8 of them at least that we're streaming through the SuperTalks throughout the state. And we got a lot of scores. As we try to cover as big a spectrum of the whole state as possible. And that first year, and we were just on the news channel that first year. Yeah. And feeding it out through the satellite and everything like that. And we had about 29 to 30 stations. We still have about 25.
Really? Okay.
Right. Most of those are our stations. Yeah. All the Super Talks and all the Telesouth stations carry the scoreboard show on Friday nights. So that's about 15 or 16 right there. Yeah. And then, of course, we got several other stations that have been with us throughout from the very beginning, and they're still carrying us.
And if I'm not mistaken, Dixon, Super Talk may be the only statewide radio network in the country.
I think you're right, because we were the original statewide scoreboard show. Yeah. And I think we're the longest running statewide scoreboard show.
We're blessed in that respect.
Right. And 30 years, like I said, still going strong. And Lance has taken it over. He's done a great job. Yeah. Caleb will be helping him out as well. Yeah. And the other, like I said, the other nucleus is Keith Walker, who knows almost everything just off the top of his head. He's amazing. And then, of course, Butch. Yeah. His analyst. Because Butch and I worked with us in radio and doing sports as well before the scoreboard show started.
Gotcha. So, JT and Michael Borky were recording something yesterday after my show. Now, what are they doing exactly? How does that fit into all this?
Because on the Jackson Super Talk station, they're going to be carrying Hartfield Academy this year. Okay, yeah. And they'll be doing the play-by-play and the color.
Cool.
And actually, my grandson is in the 6th grade out there at Hartfield right now. So it's a great place, a great school, great people. Yeah. And they're totally looking forward to having Super Talk carry their games on Friday nights.
Yeah, that'd be JT Mitchell, our news director, of course. So that's pretty cool.
Exactly. So anywhere in the state you can hear your games on your radio stations or one of ours, as a matter of fact, and then stay with it. At 10 o'clock, 10:05, thereabouts, they'll start with the scoreboard show, and from there till 11:30 every Friday night.
Now, I know that Lance, who will often come in and give us kind of an update, keeps up with all that stuff because he's involved in it. Is there anything that you're kind of looking out for this year that's of interest?
Well, I keep up with the scoreboard show as best I can, and but since I handed it off to Will and now to Lance, I let them handle it, and they do a great job with it. And pretty much, I just kind of concentrate on the college games. Okay, on Saturday.
Yeah, that's coming up this weekend, at least in Mississippi.
Exactly, almost everywhere. In fact, there are some games being played today and tonight.
Tonight, yeah, that's what I thought.
And then one tomorrow. I think Auburn plays tomorrow.
Okay.
And then, of course, Saturday is a full schedule for everybody. Yeah. And then I think there's one on Sunday, and then there'll be another college game sometime on Monday.
Yeah, okay. So, Labor Day, that's right. So take off on Sunday for the NFL, right?
Right. Well, actually, the NFL won't start until Thursday the 4th.
It's preseason, though.
They finished. They have now cut the roster.
Nothing happens Sunday?
Nothing as far as NFL goes.
So
there'll
any
be some
college games?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, there will be
thank
some
you.
college games. Right.
Gotcha. So it's starting today, full slate every day, right, of college football.
You will have football almost every Friday, Saturday, Sunday from now until the middle of February, probably.
Yeah, incredible.
Some kind.
Well,
Either
Americans
NFL,
love it.
But yeah, the NFL's I think now they have cut their rosters down from 90 to 53. They finished their preseason.
Okay.
So they're getting ready to start the regular stuff, and it'll be interesting to kind of see how that goes.
For some reason, I thought that they used to start Labor Day weekend, kick off the NFL season.
They did.
They don't anymore, though, right?
Not as much, because college football has pretty much kind of taken over in that area, and the TV contracts.
Yeah.
As well, and then they've redone the NFL schedule as well because they got 18 regular season games now, and no preseason games. They used to have 4, and now they've cut that back. And then before that, I think they played 6.
Right. So it went from 16 in the regular season to 18.
Right.
Is that right?
Right.
Man, that's a lot of football.
It is, and it's a grind too.
Your body better be ready for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Because you get in there and that particular level.
Yeah. And they're knocking it around pretty good.
They're knocking it around pretty good. That's right.
So a big one in Mississippi from a college perspective, of course, is Mississippi State traveling to the Rock.
Right. Playing in Hattiesburg again. They have done that 2 or 3 times. The last time that USM won that game was in 1988.
Yeah.
And then the last time they won down there was in 78.
How about that?
But yeah, Mississippi State, I think, has won the last 4 or 5 meetings. And they played in Hattiesburg. They played in Starkville, too. So.
Unbelievable. Well, I know our guys that do the Eagle Hour show are all over that, right?
And it'll be interesting to see what Jeff Levy and Charlie Huff meeting for the first time.
That's
ever.
Right. That's a good point.
Of course, everything's excited around both of them, and especially down in Hattiesburg with him coming over from Marshall and winning the conference championship last year at Marshall.
Yeah.
Hopefully he can carry that over to our Golden Eagles.
All right, one more time, the scoreboard show.
Tonight, Friday night.
At
10 o'clock to 11:30, the 30th year of the Mississippi Farm Bureau Insurance Company Scoreboard Show.
Awesome. Dixon Williams, SuperTalk Mississippi Sports Director, has been our guest. Appreciate you coming in and give us an update there.
Enjoyed
Dixon. Yeah, man. Folks, we got the former mayor of Gulfport, Billy Hewes. He's also a great drummer. Just want you to know that. He's coming on at 11:05. And then we've got Lynn Posey, Executive Director of the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks at 11:35. Coming right back.
Hello, my name
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
It is
on SuperTalk Mississippi.
We're back with you in the Element Well studio. So we were talking earlier. Appreciate Dixon coming in, and no doubt the high school football scoreboard show presented by Farm Bureau is awesome. And I wanted to pass on, Rhino, that drove in from New Orleans this morning, was down there last night for the State Policy Network annual conference. And that's when state-level think tanks, policy advocates, conservative policy advocates, those organizations, their staffs, supporters, board members, they converge once a year, usually in August. This is the 4th one I think I've been to. And that's just due to my association with Empower Mississippi, which is a member of the State Policy Network, as is the AFP chapter here and across the country, and then Mississippi Center for Public Policy. Douglas Carswell runs that group, been on the program many times. And they had their awards banquet. The event actually got kicked off on Monday, had their awards banquet last night, and it was well done, and lots of organizations across the country noted for various categories of awards. So I'm happy, I'm pleased, I'm ecstatic to report that Empower Mississippi and the Mississippi Center for Public Policy were the recipient of the Bob Williams Award for Biggest Home State Win. And that's that recognition from the work the organizations did to get the legislation passed that eliminates the income tax here in Mississippi. That, of course, is a policy matter that these various organizations across the country advocate for: lower taxes, less government, and in particular, eliminating the income tax when possible. And I don't remember the total number of awards. I'm going to say half a dozen or so. There were 800 attendees at this event. And it's a cocktail. It's a formal deal. And it was so neat. I was sitting with the Empower team. We had 2 tables between the staff of Empower, including founder, CEO. He's been on the program many times. Grant Callen was there, and the other great members of the Empower team. And a couple of us board members as well. And, man, it was just so neat that here's a situation where Mississippi shines across the nation in front of all these conservative policy advocacy groups. All great people, all brilliant. I always enjoy being around them because you know you're talking to people that think like you do and support the same policy matters and issues and have the same goals and objectives from a policy perspective that you do. So it's strength in numbers, right? Supported by and joined by the State Policy Network organization. But Mississippi being highlighted on the big stage. And it's well produced, by the way. And there's 2, giant screens. And there's an introduction of the finalists for each award. And then there's an announcement by someone who works, some high-level person at the National State Policy Network. And they, of course, announced Empower and Mississippi Center for Public Policy. But I wanted to pass this on when they were discussing, of course, presenting the award and talking about what got Empower and MCPP the award. On the screen, there's video playing of featuring the organizations and what happened. So there was a part of the clip. Rhino had a photo of the show, split screen, me and Douglas Carswell from Mississippi Center for Public Policy. So that was kind of neat. But congratulations to the Empower and MCPP teams for their work, their effort in eliminating the income tax. Of course, the big buzz, as you can imagine, that's gaining a great deal of traction in the country is education freedom, something you and I have talked about countless times on the program. And there's some states represented there that have already knocked that out, right? Tennessee, Alabama, Louisiana, go down the list, Oklahoma, now Texas. We're kind of the white space in the midst of all those states that have, in fact, passed universal school choice. Heck, we're just trying to get plain old open enrollment, just allowing a student in a public school to attend another public school without school boards blocking such transfer. And, of course, the president is all about school choice. The president's Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, in the process of dismantling, as the left likes to say, the Department of Education, because it's always been a mystery to me, why do we have a Department of Education at the federal level? Just questionable, I would say. Now, funding that states receive from the federal government for K-12 education and the Department of Education are really 2 different things. They're somewhat mutually exclusive. And though states are responsible for creating their own curricula in K through 12. They do receive guidance from the federal government. They don't have to adopt such guidance. In the state of Mississippi, federal funding accounts for just under 30% of our total K through 12 funding. Mostly comes from the state, and then from the local level, talking about property taxes, something we've discussed a lot this week, and then the rest comes from the federal government. Now, there are a number of categories of funding that the federal government provides dollars for, categories of various aspects, dimensions of K through 12 education that the federal government provides funding for. Sadly, folks, did a little research on this. You may check me out on this, Rhino, see if you see anything different. The state of Mississippi receives more from the federal government as a percentage of its total education funding than any other state. In other words, if you look at the total spending on K through 12 education, the percentage of that, the component of that represented by federal dollars, funded by federal dollars, is the highest in the country. It's a percentage, not talking about the dollars, not even, I don't know if that even applies or if you could do an extrapolation of that to the dollars per head, but I think it's a percentage of the total overall funding. It's my understanding that we top the list there. Most reliant. What are you seeing?
The average, national average is 20.1%. We are the highest at 23.2%.
So a little bit, yeah. I said just under 30, so 23. But then you see from there probably that, about 50% or so is state?
44.1 comes from the state and 32.7 from local sources. Okay,
on average. And it's the local that varies a lot across the state. As you can imagine, the more affluent districts tend to invest more in K through 12 education, and the more impoverished districts that just don't have as much property taxes to invest in education, to go to their education, is typically a smaller percent of the total amount in the funding. But that's something we need to change here. We're too dang reliant on the federal government. We like to talk about the federal government being fiscally responsible. I'm with you. I want to see that as well. And we brag about the fact that we balance our budget by law here in the state of Mississippi. We can't spend more than we take in. But fact is, we're incredibly reliant, the most reliant, too reliant on the federal government. Not just in education, but for health care and lots of other federal dollars that flow our way as well. About $2.40 from the federal government to every dollar we send, which, by the way, is the highest ratio in the country. Some of the deep blue, more affluent states, it's just the opposite. They actually receive less from the federal government than they send. And I know there's lots of different factors that could figure into that, military installations and things like that. I get it. I'm simply saying that it's incumbent upon us, our state leaders, and I know they're aware of this as well, to continue to reduce dependency. Let's just put it that way, on federal dollars. I think we would all be better off. But quite a big event last night in New Orleans for these two great policy advocates in the state of Mississippi, Empower Mississippi, Mississippi Center for Public Policy, being recognized for the biggest state win in the country over this past year, and that is for elimination of the income tax. Big time deal. Congratulations. Thanks to the Empower and MCPP teams. And also, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Speaker of the House Jason White and, of course, Representative Trey Lamar for their efforts spearheading that. Coming right back.
Do this. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Keep rolling. 3, 2, 1.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Wow, I feel good. I knew that I wouldn't. I feel good. I knew that I wouldn't. So good, so good. I got to you.
So, also related, Rhino, to this this shooting incident in Minnesota. I don't know if you saw this, but fifth grader shared that one of his friends, another kid, I think an older one, if I'm not mistaken, laid on top of him and got hit in the process. The reporter asked him, "Your friend laid on top of you?" And the child said, "Yeah," and he got hit. Reporter asked, "Is this something that you practiced before?" And the child said, "Yeah, we practice it like every month." Or I don't know, but yeah, we've never practiced it in the church, though. Only in school, so it was way different. Is it not sad that you have to practice something like that, an active shooter incident, that's what our society has come from? I mean, I get when I was a kid, practicing what to do in the event of bad weather, tornado. Sure, that's natural.
Or duck and cover from the nukes.
Nuclear, yeah, we had that too. Absolutely. I think we had like a couple of days dedicated to, what's it called, civil defense, I think? Remember the old agency and how you...
I don't remember, but I've seen videos.
Yeah, and we went through all that. You're right.
And all of the same things that were used for tornado, earthquake, and duck and cover nuclear drills just kind of morphed into, all right, this is the tornado drill.
Right. That's right. But to have to practice in the event of an active shooter situation, first, that's sad. Secondly, in a church? Good grief.
I remember in elementary school it was never the fear of an active shooter, but there was the fear of someone coming on campus and snatching a kid.
Yeah.
And we had whole set-aside class times where we were learning what we would do. Like, okay, well, the teacher's going to lock the door. If the teacher starts saying eyeballs, then that means, all right, pay attention to her, follow her lead, that kind of stuff. So, we've always had preparatory training in schools for events that would require the kids to be more organized than the chaos that would ensue.
I think that's right. But it's insurance, right? It's all about preparing and planning for something you don't ever want to happen. Unfortunately, it does. Scott Jennings, he's a reporter over there at CNN. He's like the only rational, logical person of the entire lot. I would certainly describe him as conservative. He would be conservative even if he were on a conservative network, but he is surrounded by all the loons over there at CNN, and they were discussing this yesterday. They brought him in, and he makes the point that I think you and I have talked about many times. He says this didn't happen because of guns. Of course, that's immediately the response. We got to take away the guns. And he says, no, this is mental illness, and it was encouraged, just like we were saying, by the left. You're encouraging this. Oh, you think you're a girl? Let me take you immediately to the clinic to get your genitals mutilated and shower you with all this praise and this fawning and adulation because isn't this great? You want to be a
dude in a dress.
Right. That's sick. That is sick. Yet masculinity in our society, that's toxic. That's why we end up with all these dang pansies. Am I being too harsh there?
No, you're actually being nicer than I would be.
That's what I was afraid you were going to say. I'm tired of the pansification, that's not the word I'd like to use, of course, of America's males. That's not the way God made us. It's okay to be masculine. Good grief. And the left's answer to that is Tim Walz, Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg. Oh, nothing evokes masculinity more than that trio. Incredible. Jennings is right. You're encouraging this mental illness. And was this not another situation where this guy had a footprint that indicated he was sick? And
the only reason we know anything about it, because the investigators aren't going to give you a motive, is because people on social media got their hands on this guy's manifesto that he put on YouTube and his whole little diatribe about how this and that and the other, and how, oh, woe is me, but you got to be nice. Like, it's just the ramblings of a crazy person. But instead of acknowledging that this is a crazy person, no, you can't hurt their feelings.
That's exactly right.
You got to bend over backwards. You got to play into their delusions.
Clearly, though, this sick individual that committed this heinous crime was in a very dark place, and nobody spoke up about it again. And you know who should have spoke up about it? His mother. No, she's all about capitulating to his desire to change his sex. Unbelievable. Well, I'm going to say change his gender. It doesn't really change your sex, your biological sex. We're stepping aside for Fox News, Super Talk News. When we come back, former mayor of Gulfport joins us. That would be Mayor Billy Hewes. Stay with us. Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
And now, another hour of the talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Begin your transition now.
Now on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. Hour 2 of the program is live on this
Friday Eve.
And it's our pleasure to welcome now the former mayor of the city of Gulfport, Mayor Billy Hewes. Hey, Mayor, good to see you, man.
Hey, man, you been beating them skins?
Yes, sir. How about you?
Yeah, a little bit, still right.
That was such a great event that you guys had. I was honored and privileged to be invited to participate. Great turnout, great weather, great venue, a bunch of great musicians, much better than I for sure. But overall, I thought there was some good music that came out that night and raised some money too, right?
Yeah, you fit right in. It was great. It's amazing amount of really quality musicians we have across this state, and the coast is no exception. So good time, good cause.
No doubt about it. So tomorrow, 20 years since Hurricane Katrina, and we're talking about that this week, and we'll be doing so, of course, throughout the next few days. Now, let's see, you weren't the mayor at that time, right, Billy? I think it was Mayor Brent Moore at that time.
Brent was the mayor. I was a member of the Senate at the time. I actually chaired the Transportation Committee at the time. So we had a lot of interesting discussions for sure.
I can imagine. So I talked about it the other day, Mayor. I remember going down the coast. I think I've shared with you. My wife, of course, born and raised in Biloxi, and we were fortunate to get her mother out of their house about a block off the beach, close to the point down there, and it was flattened. Only thing left there. One of the houses, it's built up on the brick supports, and the only thing left was the front steps. Everything else washed away, blown away. And you just look east and west, and I remember seeing, I think it was Casino Magic, that had just washed up over 90 and was on the north side of 90, just resting there. And it's hard to imagine that it would ever be rebuilt, but, man, it has come back bigger, better, stronger, thanks to the efforts of a whole lot of people, yourself included. Did you see that coming?
Nobody saw the storm coming. We based everything off of what we learned from Hurricane Camille in '69, and we're in the mindset that nothing could be worse than that. And of course, we were proven wrong in a very significant way. But as far as the manner in which we come back, you have there's a resilient thread that runs through all of us, I think, and that word is used a lot when we do these reflections. But you got two choices. You can wallow in your misery and talk about everything that's wrong, or you can just kind of suck it up and get after it and making sure everything's right, and it's incremental. But there's always a goal to work towards, and it's putting things back the way they were or establishing a new normal that is better than what was the normal at the time.
And I believe that what has been achieved is the latter. I mean, the Gulf Coast seems to be just thriving every time I'm down there. There's lots of traffic, lots of construction, lots of activity in the stores, the restaurants, the hotels, the casinos. Things seem to be going very well.
They are, if those that can remember back to 2005, we were hitting on all cylinders. The economy was really strong. We were just hitting our stride. A lot of opportunity before us, a lot of interest in the area, and then the storm changed all that. But you fast forward 20 years, and some of the things we wanted to do is reestablish what was working well, but improve in some areas. And part of that was making this a well-rounded destination. From a family standpoint as well as an adults playground, and I think we've got a pretty good mix. Economically, it's remarkable, and we had the foundation. Everything from your retail to your office to your military to your medical to your legal. There's just a lot of diversity here from an economic standpoint, and I really think that has bolstered us and helped us get on our feet. Quick, and of course the tourism component, that's our bread and butter. You can't ignore that. So getting those amenities and facilities back online where people could come enjoy this wonderful beachfront, waterfront community was paramount.
Yeah, and no doubt it's so great. Of course, we got Cruising the Coast, about a month and a half out. What an unbelievable event that is for the Mississippi Gulf Coast.
All these events, it's important to be able to celebrate, and certainly when it involves your culture and things you've built is even more important. Folks come down here, never having visited before, and they're blown away by the people, the food, the climate, the fact that we really don't have gridlock. It's a lot of things that many folks are looking for, and they discover that every time they come to Cruising the Coast, and that has grown to about 8,000 to 10,000 cars, classic cars a year that people come from every state in the union and sometimes beyond that to enjoy what we have. So it's good, clean fun. It's a boost to the economy. And, every community, everything from seafood festivals to our Harbor Lights Winter Festival that has become, the number one draw for Christmas in Mississippi, in the region too. Top 10 in the nation. Of course, Cruising the Coast has been number one in the nation as far as classic car shows in America. Yeah. For just year after year after year. So there's a lot to celebrate here, a lot to be proud of, and a lot to enjoy.
And then, of course, we can't forget Mardi Gras right there when we're kind of in the throes of the winter, and Mardi Gras is unbelievable. It's fantastic there on the Gulf Coast.
We really do enjoy, Gerard, a year-round economy. A lot of beachfront communities, they fold up after summertime and spring is over, and we don't. We keep pushing to look for opportunities. But Mardi Gras is as much of our heritage as anything in this entire region. So it is a look to a lot of socialization, more crews than you can count. So they're small and large, and there's a lot of fellowship, a lot of networking, and it's just pretty special time.
Mayor, we had Gordon Timms on the other day. I'm sure you know Gordon. He was talking about this new housing residential development that he's planning. What do you think about that?
I think it's another example of folks seeing and having an opportunity for folks who want to come live down here, and we're hopeful that he's going to build a quality development. He's got a presence here with some of his apartments and condominiums, and they are well kept. And so we're excited about the prospect and the fact that he's been able to acquire the property off the DeVise Road to get him access to his northern quadrant is important. We were hopeful that he would maintain some aspect of the golf course there, but he elected not to. And so we wish him success and want him to build to the quality that we've come to expect down here.
Yeah, sounds like he's got a pretty good plan going on. You were, of course, succeeded by Hugh Keating. You and I met at an event for him as well when I was down in May when we were playing music. What do you think about Hugh so far?
I was always excited about his candidacy and the fact that he stepped forward when he didn't have to. It was kind of a selfless type of deal because he didn't need the office. He just loves the city and wanted to do well. And I'm very encouraged about his prospects. He's been engaged everything from tourism matters to development matters, not only personally but through his legal background as well. So if you had to draw up the characteristics of a person you'd want leading your city, I think Hugh fits that. He's very dynamic. He's very considerate, and I think he's poised to move the city forward.
Yeah, he had quite the challenge from his Democrat opponent in the general.
The Democrats have shown some organization, and of course, some of their priorities I don't think are in the best interest of where we want to go as far as growing our city, and I will say our cities. Yeah. But I'll give them credit for getting highly organized, and they had some things that they were engaging in that we didn't particularly agree in as far as. We always want to encourage people to vote, but we want people to vote under their own volition. And so there were some questionable tactics that were employed, and I think it made the race tighter than otherwise it might have been. But fortunately, the Republicans had a much better candidate who's going to continue to move the city forward and be open-minded and have an open door for anybody who wants to, participate and contribute, regardless of their background or their ethnicity.
Billy, in about 30 seconds, can you kind of share your assessment of the state of Mississippi right now?
Well, the state of Mississippi, I think we're moving forward. You start with economics, and I think Governor Reeves has provided great leadership. He's put some people in some good places, and I think just the fact that we're running on all cylinders, we have really good leadership in the legislature as well, and from our statewide. So Mississippi is in a very good place as far as what our prospects bode, as well as where we stand today. We're always wanting to improve. We always want to create more opportunity, but I really do believe that we're in as good a shape as we've been in maybe in our history.
I agree. Mayor Billy Hewes, the former mayor of the great city of Gulfport. Appreciate you coming on, Mayor. Good to see you, man.
Good to talk to you. Come see us.
You bet. Folks, we're stepping aside for a break. Coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
I think it hurts my brain, but then it cleans me out. Then I can go on.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
What? This is so awesome.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth studio. We certainly are appreciative of former mayor of Gulfport, Billy Hewes, joining us with his perspective on Katrina, coming up on 20 years tomorrow. It's really incredible. So, let's see, on the C Spire text line, Mo says, why investigate a crime when the killer is dead if they are not going to hold the parents accountable? Well, he's an adult. He's 22 years old, so I'm not sure that actually applies in that case. On the C Spire text line, I rode Katrina out in the shipyard at Ingalls. I've ridden out every storm since George, but nothing was like Katrina. It still impacts me today. That's Jody in Ocean Springs. Yeah, unbelievable. Thank you and Rhino for what y'all do. We appreciate that as well, Jody. Let's see. We just played a Buffett song. Did you play a Buffett song?
Yeah,
there?
Trying to Reason with Hurricane Season.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's right. Dave from Ripley said, that's my favorite Buffett song. Jerry in Pontotoc says, y'all better be careful if a Democrat hears y'all. You could be put before a firing squad. Yeah, sort of crazy, but we tell the truth here as we see it, and we're not going to back down from that. Well, CC in Senatobia says, liberals say you shouldn't even recognize that the shooter was a tranny. But, boy, if that shooter had been a Trump supporter, do you think they would take that same stance? No, I agree. They're the ones that are awash in, totally immersed in, totally driven by, controlled by identity politics.
To the point that you've got Democrat politicians and their little lapdogs, the talking heads in mainstream media, making sure that they don't misgender or dead name the scumbag shooter. Yeah,
that's exactly right. It really is crazy, and they always have to include some description of a person. They're the ones that play that game, and in fact, what they accuse us of all the time is stereotyping and profiling, which is exactly what they do every single time. They're just convinced that every evil act, such as this one, that's ever committed, is done by someone on the right. In particular, for them, someone who supports Donald Trump, because they just believe from him all evil emanates and originates. They're sick like that, honestly. But I still maintain it's their twisted rhetoric that is causing this sort of stuff, that is serving as motivation and in the heads of these people who are already miswired in the brain when they think that, no, I'm really not the sex biologically that God gave me at birth. That means they already got something going on in the brain. You're just feeding that problem, that mental issue that they have, to the point where in some twisted, sick, contorted, distorted way, they're justifying this act, right? They're totally justifying this. The murder of innocent children while they're praying in church. And it was completely inappropriate for the mayor of Minneapolis to make the statement.
He's a worthless waste of oxygen.
Terrible about that whole deal. So, we don't need your thoughts and prayers. They were praying. Oh, my gosh. Why even say anything like that?
Because it offends him that someone would not worship at the altar of the liberal God government.
Yeah, and that seems like it. So, well, it's disappointing to say the least that's where we have devolved in this country. Everything has got to be about politics. And in this case, identity politics, and that's completely driven by the left. And I was disappointed to hear that while we're seeing a lot of private companies in particular separate themselves from this whole woke ideology nonsense and starting to do away with a lot of that, and of course the president through executive orders is eliminating all that throughout the federal government. Not so fast as the NFL. They can't seem to abandon their crap. And so all 32 teams this year will feature an end zone message of their choice. And the NFL has given them a list of choices of what they can stencil in their end zones. 4 options: end racism, stop hate, choose love, or inspire change. Now, in the opposite end zone, on every field will be inscribed, which I think is a little milder message, it takes all of us. Why do they have to lean into this? Can't we just play football? Why do they got to be social justice activists? Makes no sense. Why do they got to do that? I don't get it. But I was disappointed. I really thought we were post that?
No.
But we're not, are we?
No, the pendulum swung so far out to the left that the Democrats and the rest of the loser liberals have had to expend all of their political capital to keep pushing it to the left when reality exists in the middle. So we're swinging back towards the middle. The pendulum is coming back towards sanity and reality, but it's still way out there on the left compared to where reality actually resides.
Right. Well, I am disappointed that the NFL will continue to march to this beat. I really felt like they had gotten the message, but apparently not, and they're going to move forward. Speaking of the NFL, this is the first year, right? We'll be using some triangulated measuring technology to determine first down. They said 40 seconds when there's a spot instead of say, hey, come on, chain game, bring the chains out and set it down, and the referee looking and, all that kind of stuff. That's not going to happen this year. So the ball will be spotted by a human referee on the field, but then technology will triangulate within 40 seconds is what they're reporting and determine whether or not a first down was achieved, and then they'll move forward from there. So that's kind of new that we'll look forward to seeing. Oh, man. On the business front, by the way, the Dow up 40 points today. The NASDAQ up 111. They've been back and forth across the unchanged line. Your funny money's up to, last I checked, about 112,000.
Up to 113 now.
Okay.
Woohoo.
It's having a decent day. Oil, still in that $63 and change. Really not budging, though. The price of oil, or the price of gas, I should say, on average, lowest it's been by a little bit since 2020, when, of course, the COVID period, nobody was traveling. Bitcoin up 1 to 113. You're right. I'm looking at it right now. So the big news, of course, that we were anticipating broke yesterday after the show was over when NVIDIA announced their earnings. And they came in with Q2. This will be the quarter 2 for the company. And they beat on the top and bottom line. However, their data center sales did not meet expectations. Just off a little bit. Most of that, they maintain, the company does, caused by their restriction on selling certain chips in China, and China's economy being a little sluggish. Nonetheless, Rhino, I'm just blown away at the performance of a company like this. When you just look at their top and bottom line, it's just mind-boggling that they can produce the kind of profit they do from the revenue that they generate. So just under $46 billion of revenue is what they're coming in with. And I think that their net profit, as I recall, was about $28 billion. So that's just mind-boggling to have that sort of bottom line.
I mean, when you ridiculously oversimplify it, it makes a little more sense, although it is a gross oversimplification to say that they literally take sand and make magic.
That's basically true. That's what creating silicon is, and embedding some transistors in there on a microscopic basis.
And the world has a lot of sand.
Yeah, that's right. Sand is cheap, and of course that's also used to make glass, which is used to make fiber, by the way. So sand is used a lot in the movement. We don't think about that, and we got plenty of that. But I checked out their official report, and it's incredible. So they beat earnings and revenue forecast, but I'm still blown away by the percent net profit they generate. Coming right back. Stay with us.
From the SeaBrook.
Attention, adoring fans! It's time for
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Well studio. We're pleased to welcome now Lynn Posey, Executive Director of the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. Lynn, good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Good to see you, Gerard. Glad to be here.
So what's going on? Give us an update on the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. What you guys got going on?
Just a little information I want to pass along to your listening audience and everything. But first thing I want to do is just kind of, we had an extended legislative session this time, so it's my first opportunity to come in and just thank the governor, lieutenant governor, and legislature for some of the things they did for us, which was mostly far as give us a little extra money give our law enforcement officers a pay raise, and we got a turkey stamp this time. So, so good things from the legislature this time.
Dove season. When's that get going?
It's here. It's dove season is getting kicked off. It's going to kick off Monday, September the 1st, and the reason it's kicking off on Monday is it's of course dove's a migratory bird and it's regulated by the federal government. We would have loved to have it on Saturday, but they won't let us open it prior to October the 1st. So it's opening October the 1st. A lot of folks out there getting ready to go. I want everybody to get their license, and remember there's a 15 bag limit there, and have a good time out there. Be careful. Use practice gun safety, and be careful and have a good time. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. There's some work going on at our great state parks across the state right now, right? We've over the last 3 years, we've done a tremendous amount of work in the state park. Here again, the legislature has provided the money for us to do that work, and we feel like we're getting the job done that they want us to do, and that's bring the parks back to where everybody can be proud of them and get out and enjoy them. And we encourage everybody this fall coming up. It's a good time of the year to get out there and do that, because we've got some really nice parks out there now, and still in the process. Got several more to get to, but we're getting there.
Okay. Well, and some great lakes at these parks, too.
We do. Great fishing lakes. We've got 19 state lakes scattered around the state, and they're all managed really well, and some good fishing in all the lakes. Another thing we've got coming up, too, right away as far as our hunting season is our velvet season. It's something we started about 3 years ago and gives folks an opportunity to go out and try to harvest a velvet buck, and we've had a lot of people doing it over the years. Somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 people get those permits, and they harvested somewhere between 300 and 400 deer every year during velvet season. It's the 12th to 14th of September.
Well, I can say this anecdotally, Lynn, just driving around the area, there's deer everywhere. So our population must be in pretty good shape here. Maybe we need to thin the herd somewhat.
Well, you're exactly right. We've probably got the biggest deer population in the state of Mississippi that we ever had. Of course, it's more in some pockets than there are in others. And we're fighting CWD in certain areas, which is a tough disease to fight, and don't really have the answer to some of it, but we're trying to get there.
Yeah. Well, anything you need in particular from the legislature that you're talking to them about with the upcoming session?
Well, we're hoping to get some additional capital expense money to continue our work on the parks, and we're primarily been talking to our two different chairmen, Chairman Kincaid in the House and Chairman Suber in the Senate, about a harvest reporting bill, and that'll be our primary issue this time, the harvest reporting bill for deer.
And what will that entail exactly, Lynn?
Basically, it would just be reporting the deer that you harvest, just like we do the turkeys now.
Okay.
And it just gives our biologists a number, a better number than they've had over the years, because we never had mandatory harvest reporting, and it just helps them to work on what they need to do to try to control and manage the deer herd around the state.
We have some sort of CWD reporting in place now, do we not?
We do. It's not mandatory, but we encourage it and put a lot of money into it, far as making it places available for folks to carry the deer head to be tested for CWD.
Yeah.
And of course it is mandatory during the velvet season that they get their deer tested.
Yeah. So besides what appears to be an abundant deer population, how are we doing with respect to ducks and migratory birds and so forth? Those, of course, are big game as well.
They are. I don't think the ducks are what we would like them to be, the amount of ducks that we have, but hopefully if we can get a cold winter, there's still plenty of ducks out there, and we just need the cold weather to drive them down to us.
Yeah. And our river streams, our waterways are in good shape to accept the ducks?
Oh yeah, we've got a lot of management areas that we have impoundments there for the ducks, and have drawing for folks to come in and hunt, and and then of course you got a lot of private land around throughout the Delta that are really manage their land for ducks as well. So we get the cold weather, we'll have ducks.
Okay, so it's mainly the cold weather that pushes them down.
That's the key to it.
Does the drought that we experienced the last couple of years, will that have an effect on the migration any? Or
it may have an effect on the the raising of the ducks up in the Canada area, but so far so good. It's hadn't been really a bad drought up that way, and they've over the years have managed to get some impoundments where they can put water in them when they need to for the duck habitat.
So, Lynn, a lot of folks travel to the state of Mississippi to hunt the various game, right?
We do. We're very, very blessed with the resources we have here in the state of Mississippi, and we have a lot of out-of-state people who come in and take advantage of those resources.
Yeah.
And we're get a good bit of out-of-state money, and we're thankful for that. But we, at the same time, we like to try to make sure that we put our sportsmen, our resident hunters first in some things, and worry about the out-of-state people a little bit later.
So we of course have some law enforcement folks that work for the department as well, and their job is to enforce those laws that relate to our wildlife, our parks, our fisheries. How are we doing there? Mississippians pretty good about observing those laws, are they not?
We are. We don't write them any tickets, and we don't encourage writing a lot of tickets. Somebody has to be really in violation, violating the law blatantly for us to write anything. But we have about 175 conservation officers out there now, and we've got another 9 in a cadet school right now that we're training. So we don't have enough officers out there. It's hard to cover a big. Mississippi's a big state, and we'd like to have a few more, and hopefully we'll get there at some point in time.
Yeah. Well, and I've had the pleasure of interviewing some of those folks. They're great people, and I think you're right. They just want people to basically abide the laws, and they're not on the lookout for somebody to go, I got you, and haul them in, whatever they do, cite them and so forth, fine them. It's not really what it's all about.
No, we're not playing a game. We're just out there to protect the resource, and that's the reason that they're out there is to help protect the resource.
Lynn, what about the programs the department has for our youth to make sure they're properly introduced to hunting and gaming and so forth?
Of course, we have hunter education, mandatory hunter education, but we've tried to put a lot of emphasis on youth and getting them more involved in hunting and fishing, because they're the future of the hunting and fishing in the state of Mississippi, are our youth. And if we lose that, we lose hunting and fishing. So we try to provide a lot of programs to teach them about hunting and fishing, and provide mentors to folks who don't have folks to help them learn how to hunt and fish.
I got you. And that's important. Everybody doesn't have necessarily someone in their family that can guide them through that process, but we want to make sure they learn all the hunter safety rules and do it right and enjoy it, but just observe the rules and make sure nobody gets hurt. Nothing happens there.
That's it.
Yeah. How do we stack with respect to the other states, Lynn, and just in terms of how many folks we have as a percentage of our population? I don't know if you know that data off the top of your head, that enjoy wildlife and hunting and fishing and so forth. I mean, it's very popular in the state of Mississippi.
Very popular. I don't know the exact number, but a big percentage of our folks hunt and fish, and a lot of the family members hunt and fish. And, so it's something that the people of Mississippi, take advantage of the resources we have here.
Yeah, and like you pointed out, we have a lot of private landowners as well that have lots of wildlife on their land. From all accounts, they seem to be very responsible as well.
They are. The private landowner is, really drives the resource here in the state of Mississippi. They're a big help to the public land hunter because they do manage their resources well. And,
okay.
And, of course, we try to manage our public land that we manage the right way as well.
And that's a good point about the public land, because if you don't have access to private land for hunting, fishing, we've got plenty of great public lands that anybody can access, right? You need a license?
We've got 53 WMAs scattered across the state. Just get your license, and it requires a WMA permit if you go on a WMA, but they're really relatively inexpensive. I think a WMA permit is $15, and you can buy your sportsman's license for around $45. So for that amount of money, we'll hardly buy you a box of shells these days. So
yeah, it's a pretty good deal.
It is. And of course, we take the license money that we get in, and we're able to get about 3 times the amount of money that our residents pay for license from the federal government. So it's a big.
So there's like a match there.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
Big match there. So that's why it's important for everybody to get that license, because we're able to match it and turn it into things of fix boat ramps, work on WMAs. That's what we use that money for, and habitat improvement.
Yeah, just make the overall experience even better, and like you said, just preserve this wildlife for future generations so we can all enjoy it.
That's it.
Yeah. Lynn Posey, the Executive Director of the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. Appreciate you coming on, Mr. Director. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me for just a few minutes. Just wanted to remind everybody to be safe and buy their license and have a good time. Enjoy Mississippi's great outdoors.
Great message. We're coming right back in the Element Well studio.
Up of Mississippi.
Come on.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
All right, we are back
on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays, final segment, hour 2. Back to NVIDIA, $47 billion roughly for the quarter, second quarter of fiscal year 26. I believe if I'm not mistaken, Rhino, their fiscal year ends January 31. Interesting year end. Net income, it's just unbelievable. Operating income on $46 billion of revenue was $28 billion of revenue. So once again, you can do the math. Their operating income exceeds their expenses. But what's even further mind-boggling is the guidance they gave for fiscal year 27. And based on that guidance, analysts now have pegged, you ready for this, their net income for fiscal year 27 to be $148 billion on revenue of $261. That would make NVIDIA the most profitable U.S. company ever in a year. And that distinction was previously held by Apple, first achieved by Apple. I think 2 years ago they made $121 billion on sales of $350, and then Google surpassed that, Alphabet, by about $5 billion last year. But this is 148. Now, you know how the left likes to attack Walmart and Kroger, because people understand that. They get it. They go to those stores every day and they spend their money. And the left gets all over them. Yeah, it's price gouging. That's what it is. These companies are greedy. They're making too much money and all that sort of stuff. I just wanted to point this out. Walmart last year made $20 billion. So we're talking about NVIDIA next year making 7 times Walmart. I can't even comprehend that. 7x Walmart profit. Kroger made a whopping $3 billion. So we're talking nearly 50x. That's how much NVIDIA makes relative to Kroger. It's just unbelievable when you look at this, and it's a good sign because this indicates massive growth opportunities from artificial intelligence, and we have not scratched the surface of the productivity gains. We're starting to see it. It's being reported, but nothing like what we will experience. I like to say we're not in the infancy stage. We're in the embryonic stage of this. And why is that important? Because it's economic growth that drives wealth. It's productivity that drives wealth. You cannot produce wealth any other way. Now, the left wants you to believe, oh, we don't need to create any more wealth. We just need to redistribute it, move it around a little bit. They never think about, as I like to say, expanding the pie. It's always recutting it. That's the only plan they ever have. But when they say we need more tax revenue by increasing tax rates and tax provisions and taxing this ever-loving snot out of everybody to, of course, bring into the Treasury to address our deficits, which they really don't care about. That's just lip service they're paying to their desire to raise taxes, to be honest with you. What they cannot comprehend and fathom is that, it turns out when you let people and corporations keep more of their money, that they tend to produce more. And in producing more, they're happy and they're paying more. They call that the Laffer curve, invented by Art Laffer, which is just a mathematical, graphical representation in a curvature format that says, there's an optimum point there where you establish tax rates and you, by the way, get the most income to government from that. Well, it's not way out to the exceedingly high rates that the left wants, and it's not zero either, somewhere in the middle. And that's what the curve essentially plots. But this is incredible. This is so exciting that this is going on in this country, in this world. And this country is leading the way in that respect. And the only thing that can slow it down is government. If government extends its greedy little tentacles into the private sector and these private endeavors, they can screw it up. And they're good at that, by the way. But if they stay out, that doesn't mean we don't need some sort of reasonable guardrails around this. Man, the sky's the limit. We're all going to benefit from this in a big way. The companies that are making all these investments, by the way, they ain't stupid. They didn't get to this way to the point they're at today by being stupid. We're taking a break for Fox News, Super Talk News, coming back in the Element Well studio.
And now, the talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
That's what I like to listen to.
You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert. Here on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Well studio, hour 3 on this
Friday Eve.
So just talking about NVIDIA, Jensen Huang, the CEO, says, though they can sell chips to China, the H2O, the second-tier chips, they haven't gotten any orders yet. And that's why the data center part of their business, and that's compared to the gaming part of their business. They got two families of chips, if you will. And that's why that business was down a little bit. And that kind of rattled investors. And the stock actually sold off pretty good last night. But it's recovered since then. And, in fact, it was dragging the markets down earlier, especially the NASDAQ this morning. But, in fact, I think it was responsible for 80% of the loss on the NASDAQ. But it's up now. It's in the green territory. But here's the thing, Rhino. I think it's trading for, help me out here, $160.70 a share. Last I checked, NVIDIA. But their price target's on it at $100 above that for this time or earlier next year. Trading for $180 a share. It's got a price target that I heard two analysts share this morning at $260. So that means if you're interested in investing in this incredible growth stock, now's the time to do it. You make you $80 a share if you can afford to buy it at $180 a share, and that's only $180 because it's had multiple splits because of its meteoric rise. But I'm still I can't say enough about looking at a financial statement, and I'm looking at it right now. Revenue of $46 billion, income of $28. That's just incredible. That's 60%, a little over 60%. 60%. That means your expenses are 40%, your income 60%. Yeah, you can make a lot of money doing that. That's incredibly impressive, and it's just another, I think, testament to the opportunity that exists in this country. Let's see on the C Spire text line. Mark in Braxton says, Gerard, this is Mark R. from Braxton. Here's a term I heard on the Rick and Bubba show you can use that's safe on the radio, the pudification of America. Picture all men with pudding pops in their mouth. Yeah, that's a pretty good description of what we're referring to here, that it just feels like our culture is kind of softened the profile of a male, and I think that's to our detriment, that masculinity on males is a good thing. And that's what we should promote and encourage and pursue. But the left doesn't see it that way. Kenny and Greenwood, the mayor of Kenny and Greenwood. Oh, this is Kenny and Greenwood. Yes, thank you, Kenny. The mayor of Chicago said there will be reparations if Trump says troops. What does he mean by that? I haven't seen that. Have you seen that, Rhino? The mayor of Chicago has been...
He says a lot of dumb things.
He's been advocating for reparations for a while, and he says, of course, it was Pritzker. No, it was him. It was him, not the Governor Pritzker. That's a different event and scenario. It's the mayor of Chicago that said, yeah, the problem with violence in our society and in the city of Chicago specifically is housing's unaffordable, and that's Trump's fault. I mean, they're always looking to blame it on somewhere else. I mean, their fingers only go in one direction, and that's away from them. They just never accept responsibility for anything, and they have no solutions to it. And so Trump says, look, your town is a disaster. People deserve to be safe. It's the primary function of government, is basic protection, and you're not providing that. And merely deploying the National Guard into Washington, D.C. has served as a strong deterrent to crime. That's already been borne out. All the major crimes, carjackings, murders, robberies, theft, assaults, and so forth, all down just by having the National Guard on the streets. It's doesn't take a genius to figure out that, oh, yeah, that probably will actually cause crime to decrease.
To the point that Muriel Bowser's had to come out and admit that carjackings are down something like 80% year over year.
And she hates it. She hates that. And, of course, they were fudging the statistics. We're not surprised by that, to make things look good in their favor. But this nut in Minneapolis, this mayor, he says it's anti-trans hate that did this. That's what he said. Unbelievable.
No, it's the coddling of the crazies.
That's exactly
your
right.
Party.
It's totally true. So, the fundamental problem is that we pointed out many times is that
Democrats don't live in reality.
Yeah.
They live in their own la-la land where hopes and dreams and wishes and feelings are more important than truth.
It's just unbelievable. But they provide deference. They prioritize all these special little groups over just normal mainstream type people. It's not good enough to just say
their approval ratings in the tank.
I mean, they're really struggling big time there. They're getting lapped in fundraising, and I don't know if you saw this. The president is actually floating the idea of having a kind of a midterm Republican convention in advance of the midterms. Midterm as in the middle of the 4-year presidential term. Of course, that's when we go to the ballot box to elect every member of the U.S. House and some in the U.S. Senate. But I think it's a good idea, proposing a Republican convention in advance of the midterms to just gin up support. I think it's a good idea because he knows that if he doesn't have Republican support in the House and Senate, that it's very difficult to push the agenda through. And, of course, that's typically what happens at the midterms. The party in charge of the White House that's occupying the White House loses control of the House if they have it, which is the scenario we have right now, the situation we have.
Although, in fairness, it's not to use this phrase willy-nilly, but it does seem unprecedented. I've yet to find an example of the opposing party having such dire approval ratings.
Say again now. Why?
Like the Democrats are the opposing power, the opposing party. Well, in a midterm election, I can't seem to find a year where the opposing party was polling around 20% approval.
Yeah, agree. Yeah.
Usually it's at least north of 40.
So my theory on that, you may have a different view, is that they continue to lean into this identity politics nonsense, and it's not even popular on a majority basis in their party. It starts with this going to the ends of the earth to allow
dudes in dresses
to play against girls in sports. I mean, how much more common sense is that? But they still lean into it. We still have school districts across this country, for example, that are defending this practice. Not only playing in sports, but being in the bathrooms and the locker rooms with them. Even moderate, at least, leaning Democrats. And by the way, most of the Democrats that do support this aren't affected by it. You've noticed that, right? Doesn't affect them. They don't have any kids that are undressing in front of dudes in dresses. They're not worried about it, but they feel so virtuous defending it and advocating for it. Just keep leaning into that, you dummies.
It's because trans kids are their fashion accessories. Just look at Hollywood.
That's true.
How many whack job celebrities have trans kids?
And pushing them into it. I mean, the slightest little hint that they may observe or hear or see, oh, yeah, let's immediately go to the clinic and get your genitals whacked off. It's unbelievable. It's child abuse, honestly. On the C-Spire text line, DJ in Summit says, is there a primer out there for someone to help understand how AI will determine the future? Write a book, Mr. G. Well, I would say this to you, DJ. Determining the future is impossible, or how it will determine the future. How certainly AI could be woven into all corners of life and society in a way that will affect future life. Yeah, there's lots already written about that, predicted about that, but the good news is, DJ, we don't really know. I mean, there's a good news, there's a bad news aspect of that. We certainly don't want, and the father of AI has actually cautioned about this. Jeffrey Hinton, I just saw him a couple of weeks ago at the AI event, cautioned about this. We got to make sure that it doesn't take on kind of a life of its own and have access to things that could actually harm society. But in the meantime, people are dreaming up new ways of using this technology. It literally is a white canvas waiting for somebody to draw art on with these building blocks and tools. And that's the cool thing about it. And I think we're just getting started. Like I said, embryonic phase. But I think the best is coming. Coming right back.
Covering the stories that matter most to Mississippians. Gerard Gibert. Middays with Gerard. SuperTalk Mississippi.
back with you in the Element Wealth studio. It's middays. Thanks so much for being with us today. So Rhino was just telling me since 2000, NVIDIA has been through 23 splits, and did a little math. If they had stayed at the same level without the splits, it'd be trading for $4,000 a share today. So NVIDIA, the first company to achieve a $4 trillion market cap. Seems like yesterday Apple hit the 1, and then it was Apple and Microsoft at the 2, and then it was NVIDIA that hit the 3, then Apple and Microsoft and Alphabet came in there. But
Apple was at 3.
At 3, okay. So it's now predicted that NVIDIA could achieve a $5 trillion valuation next year. Wrap your head around that. This is so good. But a lot of people say, well, this is just another dot-com boom. And it's not. And here's what's different. These are all companies making money. Those were a bunch of companies with an idea that the market was enthralled with and trying to make a quick buck. And they were. A lot of people made a bunch of money in that era. But many of these companies were built without really an underlying viable business model and plan. It was just, we were trying to figure it all out there with a dot-com explosion where everything was being sold through these online superstores, and that was the big trend. But you remember one of the biggest challenges to that? People were concerned about putting their financial information in, their checking account, their credit card. Legitimate concern. Pretty much, for the most part, have conquered that. Still happens a little bit, but it's typically done more through phishing scams and text scams and stuff like that than it is, well, they're storing your credit card information and somebody penetrates their systems and extracts that and goes and uses it. And now, of course, all the financial institutions have systems, AI-powered systems, as a matter of fact, that will detect that kind of activity. Hey, wait a second, this doesn't look like this is you. So you see that. An easy one is, wait, you made a charge in this city and one 500 miles away within an hour. We know that didn't happen. Stuff like that, which used to happen back then. So, man, we've come a long way. And sometimes we have short memories, and that's fine. We need to be focused on the future. But all of these progressions and building blocks and problems solved and solutions have given us all this bounty of technology we have today. And NVIDIA is obviously reaping the rewards. And little did they know when they were making chips optimized for video games that they were going to be powering this AI revolution, which is super cool.
I still maintain that you can get some idea of the direction of an innovation by looking at prior innovations in a similar or related field. And I say that because we were talking during the break. AI at this point is at the same point connectivity was when you were still having to pick up the landline and put it on the modem to connect to ARPANET and the internet at that time.
Yeah, and you were just connecting to another modem on the other end using what we call the plain old telephone system, the POTS system. Yeah, you're right. And
so just think about where we've come from having to pick up a landline phone and physically connect it to your computer to connect to another computer, and how that blossomed into the internet, the World Wide Web, cloud services, and now you're walking around with access to the world's repository of information in a computer in your pocket.
Right.
That would not have been necessary without the first steps taken in connectivity. Similar thing with AI. AI is in that early stages of where you're still having to physically tell it what you want it to do. You're still having to double check what it's doing because it's nowhere near the level to be worried about like some people are, where they're afraid of Skynet taking over or something. We're not there. We likely won't be there within our lifetimes, simply because for AI to be scary, the power density required is still at sci-fi levels.
That's right. And we're not there yet. And hopefully we'll have, again, guardrails and protections in place that will prevent us from getting there. And like I have often compared it to nuclear fission. There are harmful uses, there are beneficial uses, and you've got to be careful with the harmful uses. And more importantly, we've got to be careful of it falling into the hands of people who wish to inflict harm, such as Iran. And the president says, you ain't going to do that, and he went and blew them up. Of course, you don't even hear anything about that anymore, right? But right after it happened...
It was going to be World War III.
Oh, yeah. And you really didn't get anything and all that kind of stuff. Well, I don't see any saber rattling coming from, though they lie a lot, so they still may do it. But I'm fairly confident that what the president did with that action is destroy any prospects of them having a nuclear weapon anytime soon. And that's a good thing. On the C Spire text line, Mo says, remember that large data center in the desert that Obama said they shut down, the one recording all phone calls and capturing all text messages? I bet it's still open and running. That's actually the Bluffdale Camp Williams facility. It's in Utah. Still there. I understand a lot of people feel like, and it is a massive data repository, and it was originally created to capture communications that would be scanned and filtered to just see if there's maybe some activity going on that would indicate something bad is going to happen. And that came after 9/11, and it's still doing that. And I know a lot of folks get upset saying, yeah, they've got all my data, but it's not like somebody's in there, well, let me go see what Rhino's doing today. Have you heard anything come out of this, anything like just some normal private citizen who has been approached or received a call from law enforcement as a result of this that wasn't up to something fishy? And I'm not even sure that anything like that's even happened.
I don't know that you could directly tie it to that data center, but the only example I can think of, and I can't remember her name, but there was a lady running for Congress or Senate or something, and she had intelligence connections, and one of her opponents had a gopher or a whatever they call them, where they just follow them around all the time, all their events and everything.
Yeah.
And the politician made it a point to call out the gopher by name and ask how their dogs were doing by name. And he'd never publicly posted about his dogs.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it does, in fact, collect information about websites you visit, internet searches, phone calls, text messages, emails, even credit card information. And it gets somewhat analyzed, and then a lot of it just gets dumped. Doesn't get stored permanently. But that is, it's what happens in this country, and it's operated by the NSA is who operates it. And NSA, I'm trying to think of what is that? I can't remember. It's something with the intelligence community, the National Intelligence Community. Office of the Director of the National Intelligence is the lead agency at the data center itself, at the center. It's a $1.5 billion, 1 million square foot facility. That's kind of incredible when you think about AWS spending or building 4 million square feet of data center out here in Madison County. It's just unbelievable. And then Meta, similar over in Monroe, Louisiana, not far from our point right here today. Yeah, the National Security Agency. I knew it was security. I couldn't remember. Appreciate that. So he says that makes my point. They said it would be shut down, and it wasn't.
You believed anything that came out of Obama's mouth?
Yeah, I think it is true that originally it was temporary. What would be interesting to know is whether or not anything's come of this that is where action has been taken by our government, even on a covert basis, to perhaps interfere with something bad that was about to happen. I mean, that's really the purpose of it. I'd be curious to know, but they may not tell us because that may be confidential information. So I'm not sure. You know, the reality is there is no privacy. There's certainly no digital privacy. If you want privacy, stay off the internet. We're coming right back.
From the Super Middays with Gerard Gibert. It is on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Oh, mama, I can hear you a-crying. You're so scared and all alone. Hangman is coming down from the gallows, and I don't have very long.
Welcome back, everyone. That's Styx. Renegade. So you were talking earlier about the mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser, actually thanking the president for, I'm not sure what this means. I don't know if you heard her. She said for surging agents. Maybe she meant sending agents to Washington, D.C. Quote, difference.
Well, they're calling it a surge.
Okay. I thought it was weird way to put it. All right. Got it. Difference in this 20-day period of this federal surge, okay, is an 87% reduction in carjackings, et cetera. Neighborhoods feel safer. So, good. I mean, she's right. So you got to give her some credit here of admitting that, yeah, turns out that when you got folks that mean business and will enforce the law present in the community, they get safer. Meanwhile, the nutcase mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, doubles down on his intention to resist the president's announcement that he may deploy National Guard to Chicago. He said that his resistance is like when slaves fought for freedom against the Confederacy. You're a lunatic there, Mayor. You're an insult to your ancestors who truly were enslaved. And nobody here, by the way, condones that. You still want to bring up what happened in 1865 and can't get over it and still think we're living in that world. You're wrong. You're the dang mayor of the country's third largest city. And you're black. Have you checked that out lately? Unbelievable. Yeah, that's what I just like I'm fighting the Confederacy. You keep saying stupid stuff like that. In other words, no concern whatsoever for the plight and the fear the residents in his fair city live under every day because he fails to protect them. In the name of race, by the way. Unbelievable. I know I get fired up, but when you hear stuff like that...
He would have to face the inconvenient truth that the majority of crime in Chicago is black-on-black crime.
Correct. It's his own people, totally, committing crime, killing his own people. They don't care. But he won't acknowledge and recognize that and address it head-on with facts in hand. Incredible.
Because feelings are more important than facts.
Oh, boy. Which one said they had less murders than Hattiesburg? That's him. No, that was Pritzker, wasn't it? Or was it the governor or the mayor? I can't remember. They're sort of interchangeable idiots in Illinois. But one of them did. Of course, Mayor Toby Barker of Hattiesburg spoke up. And again, I'm going to say that's irrelevant. Comparing bad stuff happening in your community, your state, to another state, that shouldn't be the standard by which we are judged.
Well, Pritzker's new favorite talking point is to point out that I think it's 7 of the 10 most dangerous cities are in red states, which is a bit odd that he's talking about cities and states without talking about the leadership of said cities, because fairly certain the most dangerous cities in the U.S. are all run by Democrats.
There's no question about that, but they are principally responsible for the safety in their cities. And in fact, think about it across the country. The even mere thought of the governor, perhaps, of said state saying, okay, I'm going to do something about this, they go nuts over that. Remember,
look at all the hoopla that was raised over the Capitol District.
Correct. I remember being in the Mississippi House of Representatives, in the gallery, in the South Gallery, when that was being debated on the floor. I think I remember sharing this on the air, when the former mayor of the city was in the other gallery in his entourage, and they were all opposed to this. But the city is, without question, safer now. I know I feel safer going there and, man, seeing the Capitol Police vehicles and the people around you. Just again, their mere presence is a deterrent. The bad guys say, I'm going to go somewhere where there are not law enforcement with guns walking around that won't allow me to get away with what I intend to do. It's that simple. Unbelievable. Yeah, Thompson Greenwood says it was J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, who made that reference stupidly to Chicago. Let's see. Mo says, that makes my point. They said it would be shut down, and it wasn't. I don't actually remember that, but I mean, I take your word for it. You may remember that it'd be shut down, but
Obama
I don't know.
Obama made lots of promises he never intended to actually keep.
Yeah. And again,
never even tried to keep them.
I would just say,
just wanted the adulation from the audience.
Yeah, and he was really good about picking his words and delivery out, right, based on the audience. And the present audience, he's really good about that. Biden tries to, but he screws it up every time. Obama did at least have half a clue. And Hillary was terrible about that. What'd she say one time? I like hot sauce or something. Trying to endear herself to whomever the demographic was, primarily represented in the audience, and all that kind of stuff. Just stupid.
I still think Hillary's worst line was Pokemon Go to the polls.
Yeah.
That was just dumb.
I remember that as well. Tim in Mize says, I think Delbert the Democrat could run as a Democrat for governor and just about win. That scares the hell out of me. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so, Larry. Honestly, the state's pretty solidly 60-40, maybe 55-45 Republican to Democrat at this point. And that fairly closely, Rhino, aligns to our racial composition as well. It's fairly close. This state, of course, has the smallest delta between the two primary races of any state in the country. And that I have always felt makes governing that more complicated. By the way, there's a rumor, speaking of, that there may be a special session here soon for the purpose of passing education freedom legislation, that the governor's pretty serious about getting on board with that. He's already indicated publicly his support for some district consolidation, which I think is a good idea. But I'm hearing rumors from members of the legislature that they're hearing the buzz about possibly calling a special session, which would certainly call focus and attention to that. The last few days ago, the Speaker of the House had an event focused on, with his task force that he created right after the session, one of the four, focused on education choice legislation, and brought in a couple of folks from the Trump administration who are aligned with the president in their support of education freedom and serving as an advocate for that, came to the state of Mississippi to make the case for that, to express that the president supports this policy as well. It feels like, Rhino, the momentum is really building strongly in favor of getting some significant policy passed in Mississippi concerning education freedom. Of course, the House was successful in at least getting a fairly straightforward bill that would allow transfer from public school district to another public school district, wherein the transferring school would not be able to block it. And that's what happens now. You got to get permission if you want to do that from your home school district and the school district to which you would like to transfer. And typically what happens is the transferring, I think known as the transferor district, typically blocks that, objects to that, doesn't want to lose the student. And this legislation, introduced by Representative Jansen Owen from the Pine Belt, passed the House, got to the Senate, and, of course, was pocket vetoed by the Senate Education Committee Chairman, Dennis DeBar. So I think this would really force legislators to vote on the record and show where they stand on this. Not that it's a secret, but I think rather than trying to get that done in a busy 3-month session with 3,000 bills, kind of all the air was taken out of the room last year with the tax reform bill. This would call attention to that and would really focus the legislature on that. Now, typically the governor has not wanted to spend the money on a special session unless they're confident, certain the votes are there to get a bill passed for the purpose of the special session to his desk for enactment. So I don't know. That remains to be seen. You guys know that the lieutenant governor is no fan of school choice. There are members of the Senate as well. There are a few in the House, but not enough to block passage of such legislation in the House.
Sounds like we need to send some senators home.
Final segment on the other side of the break.
Think for a moment.
Middays with Gerard.
Good for America. Good for fans of justice and truth. Good for us.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
This is what we stand for.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Well studio. So Senator DeBar blocked education and mobile sports betting. He's really helping the state. No, not true. Senator David Blunt chairs the the gaming committee in the Senate. He a Democrat. But he blocked mobile sports betting. But it's not just him. There are concerns in the Senate about that. The votes aren't there. And the same with, honestly, with education choice. We should also point out that the only legislation that made it out of the House last year, Rhino, was the very straightforward bill called open enrollment. Portability, another way to describe it, just simply would allow a student in any public school in the state to transfer to any other public school, would require permission of the transferee school, the receiving school, but the one that always blocks it, of course, is the home school attached to the student, the transferor school, and this bill would have prohibited the transferor school, the home school.
So basically, if you're a senator that can't get behind that, you need to go home.
I agree. That sounds pretty straightforward to me. And of course, the other requirement in GATE, if you will, was that each school would have to report their capacity versus their enrollment. Nobody was trying to overextend the school or cause an oversubscription problem where you had more kids wanting to enroll in the school than you have seats for them, essentially, or capacity for them. They would have to report that, and they could, in fact, these requested school, the transferee school, could in fact block the transfer if they don't have room for them. So nobody's trying to overwhelm them. And the other thing you remember that Representative Owen, I think, smartly included in the legislation was a $5 million pot of money that schools could access who received these transferring students that would cover the local cost of their education. Local meaning the taxes collected from those who live in their district. Since the students coming from outside their district, their families essentially are not contributing to the local taxes that fund their education in a different district. They would stay, however, with the district that they're no longer attending school in. So, or the school. It could be inside the district. But nonetheless, that we couldn't even get just that basic sort of first level of school choice, public school portability.
Because Delbert's still hiding behind DeBar.
He is, but we have to be clear that Senator DeBar has never been a fan of this. And when it was Philip Gunn in the House, it was always Richard Bennett that chaired the Education Committee, and he always blocked it over in the House because Speaker of the House, Philip Gunn, was not in support of school choice. In comes Jason
White. Which very
White.
well could have led to his ouster.
It could be. You're right. But Jason White...
Same needs to happen on the Senate side.
Agreed. Current Speaker of the House, Jason White, does see
I'm just
this
sick of seeing the Senate poo-poo every conservative idea that gets passed by the House simply because their egos can't get in check.
Yeah, of course, they'll give you, and I continue to hear the litany of objections to it, and almost all of them are wrong, as you know. They're not rooted in fact. All the things they throw at on the wall to block school choice, virtually all of them are wrong. I still maintain it's about race in the state of Mississippi. Some people may argue that, but that's fine. That's my opinion. And when you look at where you typically have blowback, it's usually in areas where the fear is that these high-performing schools, which we're blessed with, those districts that are primarily attended by white kids, would all of a sudden receive a bunch of black kids from nearby low-performing schools. However, I think the truth is the families who have their kids, minority families, in poor-performing schools that would go through the process to get their kid transferred are the very ones you want in your school. The fundamental problem we have with all this is the breakdown of the family and, unfortunately, poor children in home environments that prevents them from thriving, and that feeds into the school system. It's all, because the successful schools require the school itself, the teachers, the administration, all the above, and the community. Can't be done just with one. And so these ones that want to move out of the bad performing schools into the good performing schools, that's exactly who you want in your school. We need to figure out a way to help those who are trapped, who live in environments where they don't care about their futures. We're out of here today, back tomorrow. Stay safe, and God bless everyone.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.